So we finally have the first slate, or part of the first slate, of James Gunn's DCU. It's been a long time coming. Not really. It really only took like 3 months before someone who is actually competent and knows the IP to give us what we've been wanting for the past decade and needing, as well as clarification of timelines and alternate universes and how all of DC live action and television is going to go. James Gunn this past Tuesday announced part of, and I repeat, part of, not all, of chapter 1 of the DCU Gods and Monsters. If you're an epic lord, then that should get you going. But of course, this is the real world, aka Twitter, and there were plenty of people with a rather notorious hashtag, an enclave, if you will, of remedial individuals who voiced their displeasure within total reasonable ways, along with, of course, actual decent mofos who brought up legitimate criticisms that we will 100% get into, but we're gonna work our way down this list and what I feel about these projects and overall just my thoughts on this presentation. First up is Creature Commandos as an animated series. Gunn said he already wrote all 12 episodes. I'd imagine they are going to drop sometime next year on HBO Max. Fuck Netflix. But this was extremely predictable, not in the sense that I knew Creature Commandos was going to be announced, because before that video I had no clue who they were, but I expected Gunn to pull out some obscure characters from the DC catalog, especially monstrous weird ones. As far as I read, which was like issue 93 of Weird War Tales and like half of the first issue of the miniseries from 2000, they're like a team of ex-cons who the military transformed into monsters to strike fear into the Nazi soldiers from World War II. It does sound a little too familiar, like the concept, to the Suicide Squad, but honestly, there's so much you could do with the idea of someone or some organization turning people into monsters, you know, stripping them of their humanity. Especially if Gunn wrote it, I think this shit might just make grown men cry, players. Also, I'm not sure how they'll pull it off, but they will translate the actors who voice the characters to live action, or the ones they, you know, would be able to. I like that continuity wise, but it seems like we might run into some issues down the line. And the animation from this picture looks quality. It's giving me a lot of Invincible vibes, so I'm down for this series. Next is the show Waller, with Viola Davis continuing to play Amanda Waller in the DCU. Now, I get why a bunch of people were not happy with this. Like, why are we getting an Amanda Waller show before a Green Lantern movie or a Martian Manhunter movie? But James didn't expand too much on it, only saying she'd team up with the cast of Peacemaker and that it's a great story. I love Peacemaker and I feel this show will have the same vibe and the same like level of quality, so I wouldn't say I'm excited. I think the show will be good. Getting to our first film, and that will be Superman Legacy, coming to us on July 11th, 2025. Obviously, that might change. Hopefully it doesn't. Finally though, players, we are getting a Superman movie. James Gunn is in the process of writing it and supposedly is rumored to be directing. Now, I love James Gunn, and although I wouldn't be mad that he directs it, I would still like to see someone else give it a go. It's supposed to take inspiration from All-Star Superman, which is one of the most popular Superman stories ever. The story is essentially, if I'm remembering correctly, Superman is dying. He got way too close to the sun and his cells that absorb the yellow sun are bursting, so he's navigating that and going on some pretty wild adventures. I believe the inspiration part comes from like the tone of the book, and not that they'll kill Superman off in the first movie, like if they're trying to, you know, set a record or something, but that it will give off the vibe of the book. And that vibe was like literal sunshine and warmth, like Clark Kent and Superman just are presented by Grant Morrison in such a wholesome way. So I'm really digging that direction. Supposedly Superman is going to be around 25, so y'all already know my pick. Seriously, I just can't wait to see Superman again. It's what the world needs, players. Next is what y'all know I've been waiting on. Not quite how I would have wanted it, or at least not yet, but Lanterns, an HBO Max series about Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart discovering some terrifying mystery that'll lead into the overarching DCU story. It's said to be terrestrial based, which is pretty much the opposite of what I wanted to see. You know, I wanted to be in space, I wanted to be in the cosmos doing space shit, but I guess it's better that they stay on Earth for a TV show, although it's gonna be HBO, so I'd imagine the budget will be good, and it's not like they won't go into space. It's supposed to be in the vein of True Detective, which I've heard is good, but I've never really watched it. Oh well, I did watch one episode, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just excited to see some buddy cop Green Lantern action, and Gunn did say there would be other lanterns in there, so I'm excited to see what he has in store. I have no idea what the terrifying mystery could be, but if I'm just gonna throw out something, it could be, you know, a Yellow Lantern on Earth. Can't wait to see who gets cast. Hopefully those suits are practical though. Next, we got The Authority. So again, I had no idea who this team was, so I found some of their books and read the first 3 issues. They don't have, I believe, more than like 200 appearances in comics, but it's been a busy week, players. Lots of stuff that has halted my reading, but from what I did read, it's a pretty gnarly series about a group of superpowered mofos who are trying to stop this syndicate called the Gamora clan. Like, the first page is a city getting wiped off the map. James Gunn described the group as a bunch of superheroes that are trying to fix the world as they see fit. Lots of cool designs, so I'll probably keep reading it to get my knowledge up for the project. Looks like it could be like the DCU equivalent to The Boys with a bigger budget and, you know, obviously different backstories, different world, more grand in scale. After that was announced a show called Paradise Lost about Themyscira, which could be cool, honestly, but I'm again not too excited as I'm not that big on Wonder Woman and her lore. It's said to have a Game of Thrones vibe, which I've only watched a couple episodes and never really continued. You know, I only watched the important ones, of course. Finally, we get our DCU Batman announcement, and that is The Brave and the Bold, inspired by Grant Morrison's run. I actually have this omnibus, and believe it or not, I am a fan of Damian Wayne. He's a little fucker, and I really love his confidence and his like pseudo regalness. He also had a really good Robin series last year, I believe. I don't know if it's still continuing, but I remember reading it and it was really good. In this story, however, I believe Dick Grayson was Batman because Batman was like in the past because of Darkseid. So I'm guessing this would be another instance of not adapting the story, but the vibe and tone. So I imagine they would just switch out Dick Grayson for Batman. People, of course, were upset because some people hate Damian Wayne and also they wanted to see Dick Grayson as the first Robin, but Gunn did say members of the Bat family will pop up, or at least, you know, this will be the beginning of the Bat family. So I imagine some of them already exist. So I'm excited regardless. Again, it's going to be a very interesting movie because they have to set a tone and differentiate that and themselves from the simultaneously playing Batman Reeves verse. So it's going to be very interesting how they do that. The possibilities are going to be endless, but I know Gunn's going to pull through in the end. I just can't wait, especially what he did with Peacemaker. Of course, we knew it was coming. James Gunn's bread and butter, Booster Gold, said to be Imposter Syndrome. The show will follow Booster Gold, who is basically a loser from the future that steals equipment to become a superhero in the past. I need to read more Booster Gold, admittedly, but I am so down with this show. If y'all don't give it to Pratt or Powell, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Sean William Scott make a comeback. I know he's old, but I always thought he could make for a great superhero, especially under James Gunn's watch. Second to last on the list is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, a big sci-fi film they're planning based on Tom King's 8-issue series from last year. This series, I was able to get halfway through, and I gotta say, I dug it. The art was absolutely incredible, the coloring was beautiful, and it's basically the story of Kara on this alien planet under a red sun, and she basically goes there to get drunk for her birthday as she meets a girl that is on a path for revenge against the thief who killed her father. She gets stuck with the girl after the thief manages to stow away with Kara's spaceship. They hop from planet to planet looking for this man. I do plan on finishing the series. The movie is anything like the first 4 issues, it should be pretty dope. So I'm definitely anticipating more info on this. Lastly, we had an announcement for a Swamp Thing film. Again, I haven't read too much Swamp Thing, at least his solos. Mostly gotten him as a character through other characters' books. I know I need to read Alan Moore's run. I heard it's the shit, but the movie is supposed to be a very dark horror story, so I think that's good to diversify the DCU so nothing becomes stale and you can set up different corners of the universe simultaneously. In this first chapter, Swamp Thing is a big player in the DC universe in the comics, so I'm glad James is going to introduce him, and it honestly is just another character that was totally expected from James Gunn. As far as new announcements go, that was it, but James Gunn did mention other things, and although I trust James Gunn's vision, there are certainly things I disagree with and stuff that I just didn't like. So I'm glad Gunn gave us clarification on timelines and alternate universes. I like how he set up a DC Elseworlds type of timeline or universe so Matt Reeves can go off with the Batman and Todd Phillips with the Joker, and it'll probably lead to more Black Label type films and TV shows in the future, which is awesome. But the whole Flash being the reset for the DCU was expected, but not. Like, I really would have wanted Gunn to completely reboot the DCU into the DCU and get entirely new actors for this new world. Blue Beetle was so new he could have stayed. I honestly wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind even keeping Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I don't really care too much for Shazam. Like, I like the first movie. I'm probably not going to see the new one, and I'm not really too tied to the movie or the characters, but it looks like he's only doing that with the big 2 really, and he'll scrounge what's left from the DCEU, and supposedly that means keeping Ezra Miller as the Flash, which I vehemently disagree with, okay? Look, I believe in second chances, I believe in third chances even, but I want someone who looks like the Flash now and someone I can see as a hero, not Ezra Miller, okay? Another thing that has me super stunlocked, guys, is that James Gunn said that the Flash movie is one of the greatest superhero films of all time, which I'm just flabbergasted. I trust James Gunn's taste, but everything that has came out about that movie looks ass, but then I hear it's great from the test screenings, so I'm all fucked up with it because I was just gonna catch this one on 123 Movies, but now I don't even know. Like, is this really gonna bang, or is it just James Gunn trying to sell this movie? Like, he didn't even say that about Shazam or Blue Beetle, so I'm just like, is he doing damage control for this one especially, or are these other ones just not as good as the Flash? I don't know, I have no idea. Just saying, if anybody else did what Ezra Miller did, I don't think they would stick around too long. Just saying. Also, James Gunn said he wants to connect film, TV, animation, and gaming, which could be cool, but I think that is so much. I think he could technically get away with maybe an unsavory project or a negatively received one, just, you know, throwing it under the Elseworlds label, but I feel like it's just so much to accomplish and it's kind of unnecessary. James Gunn and Peter Safran had a lot to say about the previous regime and projects under them, which was pretty wild to hear, but I saw no lies if I'm being honest. I think the reason some people feel underwhelmed was maybe the format of the introduction of their slate. I also do think it was kind of early to get an announcement going, although, you know, I wasn't complaining and neither was anybody else. The movies are still a ways away and we still have to get through with this year and, you know, the whole DCU and the reset, everything with that, which is why come summertime, I think we'll get official logos for these films and maybe even casting announcements at, you know, Comic-Con. Maybe Gunn will reinvigorate the DC fandom, who knows? I think it's still going to be an uphill battle for WB because they were so broke last year. They could only release Don't Worry Darling and Black Adam, and I don't think either of those movies did good. So Gunn has to do everything in his power to promote movies that came before him and might be, you know, shitty. Time will tell, but honestly, what really got me at the end was what Gunn said about staying true to the characters, making sure all the creatives' visions are unique, and that storytelling is always king. And that's the most important thing, okay? I think one of the biggest advantages you can give to DC over Marvel right now, as all over the place as it seems right now, is that the guy leading the ship has experience being a creative, and I think James Gunn will not stunt his directors and writers with the typical Hollywood executive interjections to justify their positions bullshit. I don't see him going over too many people's heads and distorting their visions. I honestly am excited for what's to come, and of course for him to reveal the remaining projects of Chapter 1. But let me know what y'all thought of the announcement, what you thought about certain projects, what you would have wanted to see, and what do you think are some of the titles that are going to be revealed as the rest of Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Let me know. But that is it. And if you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope all of you guys are well. And I will see you in the next one.